As soon as the first apples appear, I can't help but bring a little bit of Germany and a lot of coziness into my kitchen. Today I'll share 3 cozy apple recipes: Apfelpfannkuchen, Apfelschorle, and my favorite apple drinks to sip alongside them. My first recipe are Apfelpfannkuchen. Basically, they're apple pancakes, and I do have really fond memories of my mom often actually making them for lunch when we would come home from school, and she'd be out of ideas or time or both, and she knew that we always loved Apfelpfannkuchen, apple pancakes. They're really easy to make and, of course, perfect for kids. You can make them for lunch if that's your thing. You can also make them for a light supper or even for just a dessert. I think this is a dessert for me, and it's a really typical batter here with flour, a little bit of sugar. Actually, Germans don't like their pancakes to be very sweet. The sweetness comes from something else, and then some milk and eggs, and I always like to add a dash of salt to bring out the sweetness. If you'd like to make a sourdough version of it, I'm going to leave my sourdough pancake recipe below, how you can make them, and that would be super delicious. While I'm peeling my apples with a curved paring knife, I always play this little game of seeing if I can peel the entire apple with one string of peel versus the peel breaking. And it's just one of those little things that I do in my kitchen, in my head, while I'm doing my thing. I am peeling and coring the apples, and I always like to save the cores and the peels for my apple scraps vinegar. I have a Ziploc bag in my freezer, and once it's really full, it is getting there, I'm going to start my apple scraps vinegar, which is very close to apple cider vinegar, but not exactly the same. And I love not wasting something that has another purpose. Obviously, you can also put the peels and the cores in the compost. Over my stove here, I'm heating in a cast iron skillet some butter. I think butter really brings out a good flavor. You can use any oil or even coconut oil if that is what you desire. And the batter is pancake batter. I love that description for the texture and the consistency of it. And I'm going to just cut the apples right on top of the pancake. Obviously, if you use a very big skillet, you get one large pancake. You can also choose the thickness of your pancake. But I want to move fast because I want those apple pieces to be in the batter, not sitting on top and then getting lost. Flipping is always very interesting, and I've been thinking about using a lid or another plate, but the rim of my cast iron skillet is so high that it actually worked. That wouldn't be so easy to do, and it's always interesting. But, you know, if I'm just making it for my own family, I'm not always so worried about perfect presentation. And here, this is where I'm losing all the apples, and that's, I think, the biggest challenge with apple pancakes, that you do tend to lose the apples no matter which way you do it, if you start with the apples on the bottom or on the top later. And I think I remember that my mom used to make the slices really thin, which is what I'm doing for my second one here, to see if that proves any better results and works a little bit better. Flipping these seem to be a little easier. You have to always get a good start and then move fast. And while the second one is baking, I'm sprinkling some cinnamon sugar over the first one. You can have them on separate plates or on the same plate, and then I'm adding a little bit more on top, and I'm actually going to try some. I'm not going to wait until later and just try some. And for me, this is always, I don't know, these German tastes just bring me back to Germany. If I can't bring Germany to me or go there, I'll bring those recipes right here. In between recipes, I'm making something very German, Apfelschorle, which is really essentially all that is apple juice and sparkling water. You can play with the ratios and see how sweet or how tart you like it, but it's a really refreshing drink, and it cuts down on the sweetness and the sugar that you do get from the apple juice. It's something really popular in restaurants too. Apfelschorle is my next one, and I thought about what to call it in English, and basically it's fried battered apple rings. It's not the same as apple fritters, which you will see just in a moment. I did have some, I think essentially it's ghee that I am heating up in a pot because that's going to be my frying. And I was thinking about using pretty much the same batter as for my apple pancakes, but I think this batter is slightly different. Plus, I like to add a little bit of baking powder just to create some lightness and some sparkling water. That creates just a little bit more fluffiness. Melted butter here in the batter, so it is slightly different if you use the traditional recipes, but obviously you can use any batter you like, and I mean, frying batter is always working. Back again to my little game here of creating one continuous curling peel rather than doing it in several goes. And I just love these little games that I play in my head in my own kitchen here while I'm doing my thing. But I'm using an apple corer because I don't want pieces of apple. I want apple rings with a hole in the middle. And I think the hardest part always is the core coming out of the apple core because it's really stuck in there. Then I'm cutting rings at about 1/2 inch or so. I want them pretty uniform, but again, that doesn't really matter so much unless you want to make them perfect for photography. In a separate bowl, I'm adding some flour because I'm dipping the apple rings in the flour to make the batter stick a little bit better. And I'm shaking off any excess flour before I dip it in the batter. You can also use a fork for this or 2 forks if you want to be really clean. I don't mind getting my hands in there and getting some batter on my fingers. The fun part is letting them sit in the hot oil. And you can also use a little bit more so they really swim. I am trying to cut a good medium between swimming just a little bit, but not using too much fat. I like to drain them. You can also use a slotted spoon for this. And meanwhile, I am making some apple tea. I love Farmhouse Tea's apple cider fixing tea. It has little apple pieces actually in it and the apple cider spices, and that just brings all the fall cozy flavors right into my kitchen and the smells because it smells really good. Dusting some powdered sugar over my apple rings here makes it just a little bit better. And I am super excited to try them. I have my apple tea here, my apple cider fixin' tea, and this is such a cozy afternoon in the fall in my kitchen. I'm adding just a little bit of apple juice to my apple tea just to add a little bit of sweetness and just a little bit more apple flavor to it. And oh my gosh, it is so good. The link is below if you're interested in getting this tea. Super high quality, everything's organic. I can highly recommend it. And I'm super curious to see what it tastes like. Oh, the crisp, fresh, tart apple in the middle and the fried batter on the outside. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.